Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody, no matter where in the world you're watching from today. Let me start on my thumbnail like I usually do. The more they try and quote unquote fix men, the harder men are fighting back. Right now, men are in crisis. There's no two ways about it. They're in a dating crisis. They're in a marriage crisis. They're in a child custody crisis. They're in a work crisis. And they're finding that they don't really have anything to look forward to. And they're not very happy. But they're still happier than the women, ironically. But men need something to strive for. They need something to push for and to grow into, because that's part of who we are as a man, is to find something that's going to challenge you and show appreciation that you're either working, or appreciation that you're a husband or a father. And men just don't have anything they're appreciated for anymore. And a lot of guys are struggling. So the headline here, men are in trouble, but whose fault is it? The problem is that they have to ask the question, whose fault is it? We know whose fault it is. It's society. It's the liberal media. It's governments. It's the movie industry. It's music. It's everybody that is trying to push down men to help women succeed. I've got a couple of articles we're going to read through here. First is this woman that wrote this. It's a review of a movie, the Men of the Manosphere review, and she says it's a truly terrifying hour. Mortified by documentarian James Blake, who meets young men who've drifted towards misogynistic influencers. Yes, believe it or not, they mention Andrew Tate in this article. I'm sure you're surprised. And so, once again, a woman that knows nothing or understands anything about men reviews a movie about a guy that supposedly joined the manosphere, and then he escaped because it was so dangerous. The truth is, this is the real story, that men are in trouble. We know whose fault it is. It's the fault of the government. It's fault of businesses. But what I find interesting is the men that are no longer listening to the message, which is what the message of, again, all the aforementioned entities are trying to push down on men. The more that men walk away from the institutions that hate them, the more that men are actually thriving. It doesn't mean they're thriving when it comes to those things, but it means that they're finding alternative ways to be happy about their lives and can still put something together that will be a life well lived, rather than just being miserable at the hands of the indoctrination factories that run everything. Before we jump into the first article, let's hear from today's sponsor, Black Forest Supplements. Did you know this is the bone marrow hack that damn near makes those $50,000 stem cell injections obsolete? Your bone marrow is holding millions of stem cells hostage, but this powder sets them free. Right now, stem cells are trapped in your bones, doing nothing while you literally fall apart. This genius doctor from Harvard discovered that cocoa flavanols are like a jailbreak for stem cells. They burst out like bees in a beehive into your bloodstream looking for damage to repair. Jacked up knees, they go there. Heart damage, they go there too. Brain fog, yep, they got that covered. Rich people are paying $50,000 to inject foreign stem cells, but this activates your own. No rejection, no trips to Mexico needed. And if you think I'm exaggerating, listen to this. Dr. Simon Mills, one of the top herbal medicine researchers in the world.
Dark chocolate is a medicine. End of. One of the best medicines around is 50 grams, 100 grams of 75% or more dark chocolate. Brain health as well, cardiovascular health. They do studies where they've put cocoa into volunteers, that means students usually, so young kids, and they were able to show changes in the blood flow within minutes, certainly within an hour of eating cocoa. Beneficial changes in your blood flow.
They call it the heart medicine.
Yeah, heart, circulation, brain, but it also, of course, we know it contains a few other beneficial stimulating effects, sort of similar to the effects with coffee, which incidentally, as I've already said, is a medicine as well. But cocoa and chocolate does have an uplifting effect, which is why we love it so.
That's right, dark chocolate. But here's where most people get it wrong. The flavanols, the part that actually does something, they get destroyed when chocolate is processed. So hot chocolate, that's not going to work. But Black Forest cocoa flavanols and flavonoids, they take the finest cocoa and they extract the flavanols out of it into a 1,200 milligram clinical dose. It's the first of its kind. Those flavanols are actually what activate your stem cells. It's made in the USA. There's chocolate, and then there's ceremonial cacao, and then there's cocoa flavanols. The other two aren't even in the same league. This is the undisputed champ when it comes to cocoa powders, and it's not even close. As you guys know, I've recently been back to the gym, working out, and there's many days where you wake up pretty sore. But you start popping this in your drink, and your soreness goes away. As you start getting older, everything hurts, and this definitely helps. Your stem cells need a wake-up call. Black Forest just launched their biggest deal of the year, and it's insane. Buy one, get one free on the entire store, and get an extra free bottle of NMN with every order. Yes, every single order gets a bonus NMN on top of the full BOGO. This ends in 48 hours, and when it's over, it's gone for good. Cocoa prices have been skyrocketing worldwide over the last few months, so I don't expect prices to be this cheap ever again. So if you've been thinking about trying it, act now. Once 48 hours pass, this promo is going to be gone, and prices will go up again. Stock up before it's gone forever. Take control of your health before someone else does it for you. Discount codes and affiliate links down below as always. Now back to your regularly scheduled program, me. Okay, so let's start here. I'm not going to read this whole thing because, as usual, it is written by a feminist, this woman named Lucy Mangan, and all she's good for is basically she does TV and movie reviews. That's it. And of course, she came across a TV review or a movie, a short 1-hour documentary about men that are in the manosphere, and she just determines, well, I have to trash it. That these people they're dangerous and they're awful, and they're being dragged down into this dark place of the internet. And the truth is that's just a tired trope that they've decided to paint on us. She says it has snippets of the loudest, vilest voices doing their loudest, vilest thing, telling young, disaffected, vulnerable men what they want to hear, that the problems in their lives are the fault of women, feminism, woke society, beta men, and anyone who is not full of ambition, independent spirit, and willing to subscribe to the influencer's latest course on how to be a successful man. If you've spotted any consistencies here, you are probably a blue-pilled cuck and not the target market, so please move along. I will only agree with her on one thing. I don't think you need to subscribe to somebody's account to take a course on how to be a successful man. There are many ways you can find this information out by yourself. One of the easiest ways is to actually do manly things. Be independent, work hard, break a sweat, hit the gym, be independent, understand stoicism, not get caught up with emotion over logic. But sometimes it does help to belong to a community of guys and to have similar men in your area kind of be on the same page as you, because it removes that loneliness. It doesn't make you feel like I'm the crazy one in a society of sane people. It makes you realize actually we're the same group of men that have stayed sane in a crazy society. I'm not the crazy one. There are other people like me. Matter of fact, look at this. There are millions of people like me, and my experience in life is what the same as this guy on the camera is saying, that we're all going through the same things. And then I read through the comments, and these are a bunch of guys that are having the same problems I am, and it makes a community. Now, that's as much as I'm going to read on her article, because all she does is trash the manosphere from beyond there. But the truth is that men are struggling. And this is why I think so many young men right now are, I don't want to necessarily use the word more conservative, but they're anti-establishment. Maybe that's the best way to call it. They're against many of these big companies. They're against the government. They're against the education system. They're against everybody that is telling them how to behave, what a real man is, and how to think. But they're also really disenfranchised, at least here in the United States, with H-1B visas, which is where we have hundreds of thousands of immigrants coming in and replacing tech jobs, but also jobs that don't require any degree, and they're just coming here to get a paycheck and be paid less than what an American worker would be paid. There's a lot of guys that are really mad about that because it's employment. It's taking away their ability to succeed and make enough money to live a life well lived, or get that woman or get that wife or be able to afford a child or a home or anything like that. Same, they're disenfranchised about the immigrants that come here. They're disenfranchised about the government overwhelmingly hiring women, and more specifically, minority women instead of the American male. There's a lot of things that have slowly been broken down for men. And when guys are in this position, and then you've got society and people on social media and these feminists and the indoctrination and all this stuff coming out and screaming at them, yeah, you need to shut up. You don't have anything to complain about. Your life is so easy. It's so good. You've had it good for far too long. Now it's our turn. And these young men say, I never had it good. I'm just getting out of school, or I'm just a young guy trying to get a job and no one's hiring me. And so as those men's lives, their happiness, their ability to succeed crumbles apart, they're breaking away from the system. And I think once they get out of the feminist indoctrination and that mindset, and they say, you know what, maybe I'm not going to look at college, or maybe I'm in the workforce where there's a bunch of woke people around me, where there's feminists running our HR department, and I said something I meant innocently, and now I'm getting written up or I'm going to get fired. There's a lot of those guys that say, I need to change my life. I need to move in a new direction. And those men are now looking at manual labor, look at getting away from the craziness, being maybe a wrencher on something, or an electrician, or something in the blue collar field, only to find that those jobs are going to illegal immigrants. This is a job site. And let me zoom this up a little bit so you guys can see it a little bit better, from Matt Van Swol. And the video is very small. The video doesn't matter, really. It says, breaking, hundreds of construction sites are sitting completely empty in Charlotte, North Carolina today, hundreds of them. And this is a little bit of a news snippet of where it shows that work sites are just sitting empty. There's no one building any buildings. There's no construction going on. And why is that? It's because ICE and other federal agents went into Charlotte, North Carolina to do a arrest and deport illegal immigrants. And they were all working for this construction site under the table because they're illegal, obviously. And this used to belong to American workers. This used to be a job site where you'd have American electricians and plumbers and construction workers and others of its ilk. And those jobs have gone to illegal immigrants because they'll take less money. And I said, I just simply said, we sent young men off to college just for many of them to earn worthless degrees and to be in lifetime debt, then replace good middle-class infrastructure jobs with illegals. No wonder we're falling apart. And that's exactly what is happening here. And so, yes, young men are in trouble, but the government and the systems that are in control right now are still very anti-male, unless I suppose you bow down to the indoctrination they want to give you. But even if you do, it doesn't make your life any better. It doesn't mean the odds of, if you say, well, I'm very left-leaning, I'm a very woke individual, it doesn't mean you're going to get a wife. It doesn't mean you're going to get a girlfriend. It doesn't mean she's not going to take your kids away from you. It doesn't mean you're going to get a job any easier than anybody else. Young men today feel the system's broken, whether I believe in your indoctrination or not. And the only sense of sanity I'm getting is if I don't listen to your indoctrination and actually start pushing back against the things that you have enacted to destroy my life. This is from the Times. Men are in trouble, but whose fault is it? A survey has found that the demands being placed on men by women and society has pushed them to a breaking point. For all the time-old fretting over the battle of the sexes, the outcome no one seemed to worry about is this one. The battle is over, but there's no jubilation because the men have retreated. Back, each sex went to their respective trenches, to a life to live alone and without love. A new study that surveyed 2,000 British men and women aged 18 to 45 revealed that men are at an unprecedented crisis point. They have rejected old ideas about masculinity. They've desperately want to care for their community and aspire to be tender, involved fathers, yet they despair of being able to fit into the seemingly contradictory demands made of them by their female romantic partners and society at large, with nearly half considering giving up on love entirely. Now, if you listen, the way they've painted these young men is they're rejecting masculinity or traditional masculinity. They want to care for their community. They aspire to be tender, involved fathers. So this is more of the feminist man, as it were. And they say that these feminist men are losing. This fits in with a demographic shift towards men and women remaining single. The proportion of Americans aged 25 to 34 living without a spouse or partner has doubled in 5 decades to 50% for men and 41% for women. In the UK, the Office for National Statistics last month precedented a 20% rise in single households by 2032, with the steepest surge in the 35 to 44 age bracket. And they say here, 15% of men have interacted with AI virtual partners. It's higher for women, but since this article is about men, I can see why I guess they're skipping women. But it's something like 30 some odd % for women, are now interacting with AI to make friends or have someone to talk to. 50% of all men endorse red pill misogynistic ideology. Again, it is not misogynistic. They must paint this brush that red pill is misogynistic. It's not. It's traditional masculinity. So that would be much more accurate. Young men are embracing traditional masculinity, not the feminist trope. 62% of all men believe women expect too much from them in a relationship. Spoiler alert, women admit they expect too much from men as well. The research goes some way to explain what's going on. More men were unwilling to undertake the compromise or self-improvement relationships require. When faced with the idea I would have to change too much about myself, such as my values or my behaviors, to make a serious relationship work long term, 44% of men agreed compared to 33% of women. A quarter of men bleakly said they believed no one would fall in love with them. A serious relationship was too big a financial commitment, said 41% of men, significantly more than women. It comes as no surprise that 15% of men have interacted with AI virtual partners. Okay, so let's break this down. Right now, we know politically women have shifted 30 points to the left, where men have moved 5 points to the right. So men are still pretty close to what they've always been, which is much more traditional. It used to be women were actually more conservative than men, but now it is women that have gone way, way more left. So when you ask a man, are you willing to compromise or self-improve yourself to maybe start dating these women? A lot of guys are saying no, they went too woke, they're too left-leaning, they're too much in bed with the state, and they want all the government handouts. And I, as a smart man, know that is going to bankrupt our country. They want to keep the borders open, where I, as a man, know that it is detrimental to jobs and job satisfaction and job pay. And men are saying, no, I'm not going to compromise that because my way makes sense. Mine is logical. Women are too emotional. And so 44% of men agree, yeah, I can't shift like that. And 33% of women say they feel that they would not be willing to change their ideology to date either, because they would say, I'm not going to change to date a conservative or traditional man. They're also accurate in saying that 41% of men believe that no one's going to fall in love with me because they see what's going on in the dating market and women dating the top men and leaving the other men to spare. And men have also seen the dating world, which is all you have to do is swipe on a dating app, where women say he must make six figures, he must have a degree, he must, I want to date up. And men say, well, I'm not that upper guy. We're probably equal or on par, but I'm not the guy she's looking for. And men say, I don't make enough money. My finances are not there, based on what women have said. Now, there is a rainbow at the end of this, but I'm just trying to paint a picture of society now admitting that men are in a tough spot, right? People know it. Now, are they changing their minds where they're putting out, they're saying we're going to hire a few less women. We're going to start to hire more men. Are they saying that? No. Are colleges saying we're going to give more financial bonuses or more financial assistance to men so they can, come to college more? No. They're not doing anything to actually solve the problem. They're just admitting men are in a rough place. And then when men say, yeah, see, we told you, we're told to shut up. So the institutions know it, but they can't do anything about it because that goes against the feminist ideology, which, as we know, is not to be equal, but is to stamp men down. Now, the rainbow that I'm getting to, just to kind of preface this a little bit, is that men have a way to win. It's going to be outside of the system that is being set up. It is outside of the dating world, or the traditional dating world. It's outside of all the traditional ways that they've set things up. There's still a way for men to win. It's just not the one they want you to take. They're scared to death that a man decides to be a traditional masculine man and he becomes a passport bro, or he turns a wrench, or he does some way to become successful without being a feminist and without being woke. That's their worst fear. And that's why they constantly push back against men going out and finding their own way to succeed, which is, men going their own way, or red pill content, or whatever they want to slam it as negative today. They say some 62% of men agree that women have too many expectations of how men should be in a relationship these days. But most surprisingly, nearly half of women agree with that one. So now you've got a majority of men say women have too many expectations on men for dating. And women agree. Women say, yes, we expect too much from men to make dating successful. So how does that change? Well, the woman has to lower her expectations, or they have to lower what they expect of men in general. And the irony is women will not do that anymore. And so women just say, yeah, we expect too much of men, but they need to be better. And if they can't be better, I don't want them. I'd rather be alone as a woman. And that's what they get. 68% of men are afraid that their reputation will be destroyed if they speak their minds. This is true. If you're politically conservative and you speak out in most institutions today, you'll be destroyed. If you're trying to date and you say, oh, you're conservative or you don't believe in feminism, you'll be destroyed. But not only that, but also if you open up with your emotions and you cry as a man, or you say that you love deeply and you're passionate about something, women will destroy you. It's a trap when women say, we want men to be more emotional. And I think it's accurate to say that 68% of men are afraid their reputation will be destroyed if they speak their minds. But here's the great thing about coming into spaces like this and working jobs with other masculine men and not worrying about dating and the feminism and all that other stuff. You can speak your mind all the time and you have zero fear of having a reputation destroyed, because your reputation is always already that of being, I don't know, red pill or tradcon or whatever else it is. 1 in 4 UK men believe no one will fall in love with them. Statistically, that's about right. Unless you're a guy that wants to date your equal, and then you're not going to find love, because even those women are trying to date up. 57% of men feel pressure to look a certain way to be successful in the dating world. Now, traditionally, men could look average, but, be in decent shape, and they do okay in the dating world. Not anymore, because if you're an unattractive doctor or an average doctor, a woman will try to, use you as the retirement plan when she's 38, but she's not going to date you and fall in love with you because you're not the hot guy. We've seen where women will only swipe on the attractive men on the dating apps. The world of dating apps, combined with spicy content, combined with I can't be interesting to a woman until I have a high income, combined with men spending more time online and becoming socially isolated at higher rates than young women. He said, I think we have a generation of young men who in some ways have atrophied relationship muscles. Listening to young men in the UK, we hear some of that struggle that leads to retreat. I find this an interesting statement, because he's saying men have atrophied their ability to talk to girls, date women, and be in a relationship. So they blame the men for the atrophy without realizing that it's women that must accept that man to go on a date. She must and allow him to flirt with him, allow him to talk to her, allow him to take her out. And these women don't anymore. So again, they always look at the reaction to the problem instead of the problem itself, because the problem itself is uncomfortable. It's women rejecting men. Women will reject men if he's short or, less than. Now, let me preface this. It doesn't mean you can't date as a short guy or as a bald guy or as an average guy, because I know it can, because I've done it, right? I've done it before. I've still done it more recently. It can still be done. It just means your dating pool is much smaller. It makes it much harder to even go on a simple date. It still can be done. But what's happening to young guys, I'm old. I was forged in the fires of the 80s and the 90s, where you had to walk up to a girl and actually talk to her and get rejected, and then do the walk of shame with your head hung down low across the bar, the pub, or whatever, after being crushed in front of everyone in public. I have extremely thick skin. That stuff doesn't bother me anymore. But you take a young man today that's not used to that. He hasn't been forged in the fires of rejection, and he can't even get a like on a dating app, or he smiles at a girl and she says, ew, go away. That happens to you with 3 or 4 times in your early adolescence. That's it. It's game over. And then he sees on the X or on Reddit or on 9gag or something else, all the women's, their dating profiles say a man must be perfect and he needs to be all those things. Guys don't even they don't even walk up to the plate to get a swing at a pitch. They don't have any opportunity. So it's not atrophy, because atrophy gives you the impression that they once had those muscles and they're slowly going away from not being used. The men have never had an opportunity to use those muscles. So once again, per usual, it's not the men the men are struggling, yes, but it's because of the women. The men can't change this. The men can't change this. And then when you ask the women, well, what do men need to do to fix the dating world, they want men to become feminists. They want men to become left-leaning. They want men to make a lot more money. They want men to be taller and athletic. And men can't do that. That's not how any of this works. Again, they blame men's reaction to the world and then blame the men for causing the problem in the first place. This chimes with many of the survey's other findings. When asked about the statement, no one cares if men are okay these days, 63% of men agreed. They continue on, modern masculinity in Britain emerges as an absurdly chaotic bundle of contradictions. First, the good news. When asked to rank 18 traits that meant being a man, the results were touchingly wholesome. The top ranked in descending order for men and women was first, being a friend, then helping those who need it, and the third, providing for a family. The bottom four ranked were being in charge, making lots of money, managing conflict with violence, and having many sexual partners, all of which rated higher for men than for women. However, while men said the key part of their identity as men was being a good friend, they found this hard to put into practice. Some 59% of men agreed, I have to look out for myself. No one has my back. Men were twice as likely as women to agree men should figure out problems on their own rather than ask for help. Well, that's what men need to do. Who's a man going to ask for help? He can ask another man. He can ask his friends. But I think most people do agree that if it comes down to it, in today's society, a lot of people are not going to have your back. Look how many people get sold out because a guy says something kind of dicey and he gets ratted out by one of his friends to the HR department and gets fired. And yes, men should figure out problems on their own rather than ask for help. That's not a masculinity problem. That's just being a man. I think men can take pride in knowing a lot of things. That's why my father taught me a little about plumbing, a little bit about electrical work, a little bit about carpentry or fixing a car. I suck at all of them, but at least I learned something. And there's a bit of pride when you figure something out for yourself. There's a bit of knowledge gain when you learn how to do something yourself. When you just run around asking everybody else for help, that's not masculine. Because that means if they're not around to help you and things do go south, you're on your own and you don't know how to fix anything or do anything. But they paint this as a negative, notice. They paint it as a negative that men won't ask for help. Men shouldn't have to ask for help. People should come to you for help. That's really the way you want to construct your life. The same thing goes for mixed signals men get from women. When asked whether being a parent is the most important job in the world, 80% of men agreed, more than the women. Yet when presented with the idea that men who are full-time fathers are not seen as real men, a third of the women agreed, not far off from the 42% of men. And so they ask these working women, if the father stays home and takes care of the kid, is he kind of not seen as a real man? Women agreed. A third of women agreed. Yes, totally. So it's the catch-22. And men, men want to be the bread earners. They just don't psychologically understand men. They're just trying to take a square peg and pound it into a round hole. Men like work. Men get pride being able to take care of a family. It makes a man feel important. They just don't understand what makes men. That's really what they're saying. I don't know too many men that want to be at the beck and call and the whim of the woman that's leading the household. Yes, there's some feminist men that want to, but men, it's in our DNA to help and fix and lead and provide, and that's what fulfills us. And they don't understand that they're forcing men to not do what is fulfilling to them. And then they're mad at men when they don't want to be the beta of the relationship. They just have no idea how men even work or what makes men happy. The same went for the questions that were trying to tease out how far men agreed with so-called red pill ideas about masculinity espoused by manosphere influencers such as, wait for it, Andrew Tate, of course. Roughly half of men endorsed some regressive or red pill ideas. I like how they have to call red pill ideas regressive. No, it's traditional. Because what you're doing with the progressive ideas isn't working. It is broken. It is destroying society, and we see it in all westernized countries today. No one is happy. They're falling apart. And so maybe, if you want to call it regressive, fine. Maybe regression is the direction we need to go. Anyway, they said roughly half of men endorsed some regressive or red pill ideas, but in many cases, it was women's support for those views that was more surprising. Women and men are swimming in the same water about these ideas about manhood. Young men will tell us women want a guy who looks a certain way and is the breadwinner. We're very aware that for those men in relationships, there's a huge expectation that can be quite traditional among women. So here you've got men saying, I want to be the breadwinner. I want to be in charge. And do you know who says they want men to be the breadwinner and in charge in some ways more than men? Women. Women say they're looking for a guy that is kind of being the breadwinner and that will handle things when there's a problem. So even women today are saying out loud, along with the men, we like masculine men. We like men that are the breadwinners. We like men that are leading the way, that are in charge, that are strong. So women are saying this, men are saying it, but the institutions and the media and the government and everybody else keeps trying to squash that down, like stuffing 50 pounds of shit in a 30-pound bag. It's not working. And men and women both agree they like a traditional masculine man, but the powers that be are afraid of that because that means they'll get more pushback on their stupid ideas. And it means that they'll get pushback on the direction they're trying to take these various countries. They want a weak, docile man, and they're trying to convince women and men that that's really a good thing. And it's not working, no matter how bad they try. Sure, many men had views that aligned with the more hard right online influencers, which was perhaps informed by the greater time they spent online. On average, a couple more hours a day compared with women. A third of men, compared with a quarter of women, said their online social life was more rewarding than real life. So a third of men with a quarter of women. See, I don't believe that because women are the ones living in fantasy land in social media. But notice that they keep going back to, well, these young men are being more informed by the greater time they spend online. In other words, you're just an idiot, stupid man surfing YouTube, and you come across a channel like mine, and all of a sudden, you listen to my words, and you're slowly hypnotized and turned into an awful, horrible man. Or the reality is, people see how the government and Hollywood and all the establishments and powers that be are leaning on men, and you keep hearing from them that men have all the privilege and men are the toxic masculinity and they're all the problems in the world today. And then you come someplace and you're like, hey, this guy's saying I'm not a bad person. This guy's saying it's okay to be conservative or have traditional views on the world. This guy, I agree with this guy. And no, I'm brainwashing you, you see, because you're just an empty vessel to be filled with hate, according to feminists. They wrap up, does Barker feel more or less optimistic about men finding love after this research? He said, I'm very excited by friendship coming out top of what it means to be a man. That feels to me like a gain in the world, and that men saying fatherhood is the most important thing in their life. There's a beating heart of men that needs to be connected, caring humans. So I feel panic, but panic comes with deep hope that men can actually and do love. Yes, but there's a problem with that. Those studies have been done. It is men that are actually way more caring and way more loving than women. It's not the problem with men. They just refuse to see the reality of the world in front of them. It's not a problem with the men and men loving and men wanting to be fathers. You know, the NBC poll that I ran a little while ago, a couple months ago in a video, showed the top 3 things for men were being a provider, being married, and being a good father. That was the top 3 things for conservative Trump voting men. And it was, 5, 6, and 7 for conservative women. It was 9, 10, and 11, and 12, or whatever they were, for the left-leaning, which is 68% of women today. It's not the men that are a problem, it's the women. And this is an article from June 4th. I'm not going to read it. But I want to give you they must cram down the ideology that conservative, traditional men are the problem. What's the problem with young men? My descent into the manosphere. And this is a full article, and I'm not going to read down through it. A full article just slamming the heck out of traditional men. The problem isn't traditional men. Traditional men built society. They built technology. They built the car. They built aqueducts for running water. They built electricity. They built the air conditioner. Men have built everything that we're enjoying today. It's all on the backs of men. And it was traditional men that had traditional wives, that raised traditional families, that raised kids. They cared about their country. They cared about their fellow man. They cared about the family. They actually had something. They cared about their jobs. They cared about a better world. And what do you hear from young progressives today? America sucks. England sucks. Australia sucks. Germany, whatever country you're from, they all suck. Canada. Sorry, Canadians. I forget every once in a while to throw you in. I think of you as our hat. So you're kind of like American light. That's the way I traditionally think of Canadians. But the whole point is, you hear them all the time protesting everything. They hate the country. They hate the flags of our countries. They hate our traditional beliefs and values. They hate everything. And men today are just trying to save what we've had that worked for hundreds of thousands, not hundreds of thousands, hundreds and thousands of years. Our way worked really well. And now you've come in and over the past 30 or 40 or 50 years since feminism came in, decided to destroy it all. So we've had thousands of years of success stories versus 50 years of all falling apart. And you don't understand why men say, this isn't working for me. You're broken. Your ideas are broken. Your ways of doing things are broken. You're destroying everything. I want to go back to the good ways, the good days when things worked, when men were in charge and women cared for their families. That worked for people. But they just cannot stand that day after day and lesson after lesson, they're being proven to be wrong and we're proven to be right. And so now they must continue to call us toxic and everything else. But here's the truth, okay? Men fighting back, men going their own way, men learning their own path in life, men rerouting the expectations that they had. You know, when I was 18, 19, 20, I thought I'd, get married someday and have a house on the hill and picket fence and whatever, right? And the job, the 9-to-5 job, and I'd be handed a whiskey and a pair of slippers when I came in the door. That's gone. And that's completely shattered now. And the men that continue to strive for that and want that and desire that, some of them will find it, just statistically speaking. Doesn't mean they get divorced in 20 years. We don't know. We can't see into the future. Doesn't mean they lose custody of their kids. We don't know. We can't see into the future. But some of them will make it. But are they going to be happy? Well, I can tell you this. The more that men are saying, I'm not going to play this game. I'm going to find a good group of guys for my job. I'm going to have a good group of friends, guy friends. I'm going to have community. I'm going to have maybe a faithful pet or something. I want to surround my life with things I can rely upon. That's what makes men happy. In the past, you could rely upon a job until pretty much you retired, and then they give you a pension. You could retire you could rely on a wife that'd stay with you. You could rely on kids that would love you. You could rely on your little house on the hill. You had stability. Today, there's no stability in dating or in marriage or in the job market. Men are just wanting to succeed and find stability. And where's their stability? It's in communities of like-minded men. It's doing a job that's maybe using your hands instead of being at the whims of an angry HR lady that decides to write you up or try to get you fired. Men are just looking for stability. And so the more that society pushes and tells men they're the bad guys and everything's in chaos, the harder men are fighting back and the harder men are finding their own ways to find that stability in life. I don't know where this ends, but I can tell you these people are breaking the system. They're not going to have any success. Our best option is to try to do our best to not only fight the system, but find a way to get outside of the system. Only then are you going to find real happiness. Now, speaking of real happiness, make sure to join us over on betterbachelor.locals.com. It's $5 a month. It just drop a $5 and come join the community. There's a lot of like-minded guys over there. We have a great community. We put ourselves behind the paywall of $5, and that way we can watch movies. Our last movie night was we watched The Accountant 2 and Black Phone 2. Well, let's just say we did a lot of tipping back drinks and roasting. Those were not good movies. But you can also come over and watch classic, underrated, nostalgic television, where we just watch old TV shows back in the day. And, of course, Saturday night at the movie house, or a cinema house, I should say, where we watch sports, UFC, lots of movies. We have a great time. So come on over, join a group of like-minded men like yourself, like me, and I think you'll enjoy it very much. We have a great community of guys. And if you find you're missing out on community as well, I think you'll find it over there. So come check it out today, and we'll see you guys in the next one.